Be careful out there. Not all mortgage pre-approvals are the same. In today's episode, I'll explain how risky it can be to rely on an inexperienced or lazy pre-approval. I'll paint the picture of what a reliable, thorough pre-approval process looks like. This is episode 15, What to Expect When You Apply for Pre-Approval with Me.
Welcome to the Utah Homebuyers Quest podcast with Nelson Bars. Our mission is to give you hope, knowledge, and encouragement on your quest for home ownership.
Housing affordability is at its worst point since 1986.
Higher mortgage rates are impacting Utah's housing market. Potential buyers out there being priced out.
It's getting tougher by the day to afford a home.
Many factors are making it very, very difficult with no relief in sight.
Homeownership may seem like an impossible mountain to climb in today's world. We're here to say that it is possible, and we're here to be your guide, to climb with you, to urge you forward all the way to the closing table. We believe in home ownership, and we believe in you.
Well, hello, home buyers. My name is Nelson Bars. I'm a mortgage broker here in Utah. I've been helping people buy homes for about 25 years now, and I'm excited to help you. And I commend you for being here. Every episode, as you know, is one small step towards your goal of home ownership, and I am here to help you. I'm here to teach you. I'm here to answer your questions. As a reminder, we have our first 3 episodes were considered base camp episodes. So those are where you prepare for your climb, right? These will give you a broad overview. Think of it as a 2-hour home buying seminar in your car or in your kitchen while you scrub the stove. I don't know exactly where you're listening, but I hope you'll take those as your first step and then come back for the more in-depth conversations that we have in every episode. I also hope you'll subscribe and follow the channel. I promise to give you valuable content in every episode. Today's episode, what to expect at a pre-approval consultation. As I said in the beginning, not all pre-approvals are equal. So I want to explain the difference between a pre-qualification versus a pre-approval or a pre-underwrite. These are basically different levels of effort from your lender and from your loan officer. A pre-qualification is usually just a quick glance at your details. You know, they might just say, looks good, go ahead, go buy a house, right? They're probably going to do a single bureau soft check on your credit. You know, people like that because it doesn't hurt your score, and lenders like it because it's cheaper, but it can be problematic, right? What if there are negative things on other bureaus that don't show up at the pre-approval? Those other bureaus are going to have to be pulled later. We have to pull all 3. So why not now at the beginning of the process to make sure we're not missing anything that could be a roadblock in your qualification? So unfortunately, some lenders treat these pre-qual conversations like more than it really is. A 15-minute discussion, and they're going to write you a pre-approval letter. And that pre-approval letter is going to be used to go make offers and put a house under contract. And unfortunately, the seller doesn't really know how much time the lender put into your pre-approval. All they know is if that lender is reputable and if it's in writing. So, you know, it's so risky. A bad pre-approval can cost you a lot. Have you ever heard of a situation where financing fell through? Unfortunately, it's common. Too many big banks accept this as just part of doing business. There's just a lot of loan officers too who are not careful, who aren't experienced, and who will write a pre-approval letter for you because that's what you asked for, and then they put you in a position for heartache and disaster later. And what are the consequences of a bad pre-approval? You're going to have earnest money. Usually it's a couple $1,000s. I've seen $5,000 and $10,000 of earnest money that you're going to put on the line when you make your offer. If that loan falls apart towards the end of the process and you're declined, the earnest money could be lost. It could go to the seller. You know, you also have appraisal fees, home inspection fees. All these things happen as you're getting ready to close, and usually before the underwriter finally sees the file and kills it for something that your loan officer should have known or seen in the beginning. You could have also given notice already to your landlord that you're going to leave. You could have wasted a lot of your own time, energy, emotions on picking a house. And imagine after all of that and all that money you've spent to have it all fall apart because of a bad pre-approval. For me, I cannot operate this way. I care too much about my reputation and my relationships with you and your realtor to send you out there on a hunch and a hope. It's like a pilot telling everyone to just hop on a plane without 100% certainty that he knows how to land that plane. It's my job to land the plane safely for everyone involved. So let's talk about a better way, a thorough pre-approval. This is how we work in my office, and it's based on a belief that you and I should be willing to put a little more than 15 minutes into the planning stage of the biggest investment of your life. So our first conversation is usually pretty brief, whether you book on my website or I get your name from a realtor, or if you referred to me from someone who's used me in the past. I'm going to reach out as soon as I can for an initial quick chat. And the purpose is just a call to find out what your goals are and also to ask a few basic questions and then to schedule a more thorough consultation. But I will ask on that first call one important question. Are there any major worries that you have going into this? Often it's that one thing in the back of your mind that makes you feel like you won't qualify. And we can discuss that on the very first call and look at the issue from all the sides, and I can tell you if it's going to be a problem. More often than not, the answer is, that's not going to be a problem. Don't worry about it. That's not going to stop us. So after that quick conversation, we will book a consultation. And I prefer to have both or all parties present for that. If you and your spouse are buying your first home, let's meet when you can both be present and have all of your questions answered. If you've done this a lot of times and one of you wants to take care of it, that's a different story. But we can meet in person, either in my office, which is in Layton, or we can do it virtually via Zoom. And the goal is to be face-to-face with all the decision makers and just to set aside enough time to answer all your questions. So usually I try to book these for about 45-minute time slots. I prefer to do these during business hours, but it's more important to have all parties present. So we'll often do an evening appointment. And it's also important that when we sit down, I've got all of the data needed to give you accurate answers. So I'm going to ask you to fill out the loan application before we meet. I'll send you a link to our secure portal at the end of that first call, and that's just a pretty quick process. It's going to ask you for your name and your address, your work information. Most people can do it in about 10 minutes. And then the system will ask you to upload any documents that will be needed based on your answers. So for most people, pay stubs and W-2s. If you're self-employed, the system will ask you for your tax returns so that I can do some analysis on your income. If you're divorced, it'll ask for a divorce decree. The system knows what to ask for, and it won't ask you for things that we don't need. And in that application process, the other thing it'll ask you to do is to give me permission to pull credit. I usually like to start with a soft pull. That's usually enough to get the conversation started, and I'll have a copy of that ready for you to review at your consultation. I'm also going to have information ready for you about down payment assistance, anything that you might qualify for from the cities, the counties, any of my lenders. You know, it doesn't do me any good to give you a list of 50 different down payment assistance providers. I'm going to whittle it down to the ones that would work for you, that are in your area, that don't have income limits that are crazy, that you can't qualify to get. I'm also going to have some loan options prepared so that I'm ready to start teaching you about your options when we sit down and meet. Okay, so we've done all the preparation, and now it's time to meet for our consultation. And whether that's on Zoom or in person, we're going to start just by talking. I like to start by asking you questions. What is your goal? What is your timeline? Have you ever tried buying a home before? What happened? What did other lenders say to you? And how did it go? And I don't really feel ready to give you advice until I know your goals and where you've come from. I don't want to be like the eye doctor who just hands you his glasses or a prescription without first testing and understanding exactly where you are. So this process of getting to know you, it continues when we start reviewing the application together. We're going to zoom in on what you filled out, your work history, the type of income you have. And here I'm looking at this like an underwriter. Are they going to count your income? Will they make us take a 2-year average? Can we use your latest raise, or do we have to average in all the old pay that's lower, right? If you're self-employed, we're going to pull up your tax returns, and I'm going to show you how the calculations work. It just takes a second so you can understand how much income the underwriter is going to count for you. I usually end up teaching a lot during this part where we review your income. I want you to understand what the lenders are going to look at for you. And if there's another program that's not a conventional loan that works better for you, like a bank statement loan, we'll pivot to that at that point. We're going to do the same thing with your down payment source. Is it from an acceptable source? Will the underwriter allow it? Are you planning to borrow it? Are you getting a gift if you're eligible for down payment assistance? Well, I want to know exactly where it's coming from. And again, I'm looking at it like an underwriter to make sure we don't run into problems later because it came out of cash in the mattress or something like that. Now, if you're not eligible, I'm going to show you why. And, especially for these down payment assistance programs, if you're not eligible, I'll show you why. And it's probably because you make too much. But we're going to explore ways to perhaps get you under that income limit. Can we leave some of the income off the application and still get you approved, and so forth? And then we're going to look at your credit report together. I'm going to pull out the printed credit report or pull it up on the screen, and I'm going to point out any roadblocks to getting approved. And if we have to wait, I'll lay out a timeline and a game plan for you. And even if there aren't any roadblocks, I'm going to look for ways to improve your score in the short term. We can do a rapid rescore in a matter of days, and if you can get a better score, you can get a better interest rate, better mortgage insurance. I'm always going to look at that and talk to you about, do you want to try to boost your score and get the best possible deal that you can, right? We're going to discuss your list of debt payments that came up on your credit. Are any of these being paid by other people? Are they being paid by your business? Are you planning to pay any of these off before closing? It's just a matter of going thoroughly through your application. Again, I'm just trying to understand. At this point, I'm gathering more and more information about you. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that we're going to do a soft check of your credit. If things look borderline in any way, we're going to do a full hard check, or I'm going to ask for your permission to do that. What that allows me to do is then to submit your file electronically to the Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or FHA or VA or USDA program. They have automated underwriting engines that will give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And they're algorithm based. They take the entire risk assessment of your file and tell us whether we're going to go forward, be able to go forward or not. So that's important. We're going to rely on this soft credit check to write your pre-approval unless you are so squeaky clean that there's no risk of it not working out, right? And even then, we're still going to make sure we look at all bureaus so there's no surprises. When it's time to do the hard credit check, it'll be your decision, right? Now, we've got all the accurate income. We've got all the accurate debt payments. We have the full down payment source figured out. We're finally ready to zoom in and start looking at your loan options. And I'm going to show you which loan program I recommend. It might be FHA for you. It might be conventional. It might be VA or USDA or Utah Housing or some of these non-QM options I mentioned with bank statement programs. There's no point in teaching you everything that the market has to bear. I'm going to teach you exactly which ones I recommend for you and why. As I've said before, my job has multiple parts. One is to get to know you and your goals. The other is to get to know the full mortgage market and to stay abreast of the programs and the guidelines. So I'm constantly studying. I'm going to conferences. I'm reading all those boring emails in my inbox from all my lenders telling me about their programs. And now we come to part 3 where I can put those two together and I can show you the best program for you. So I'll show you how the pricing engine works as well. I'm going to show you how we run rates. I'm going to pull up all my lenders and how they price out for you based on your credit score. There are over 30 lenders loaded into our pricing engine and more that I could work with. And I'll show you which one is priced best for you. I'll show you their entire rate sheet. Did you know that you can pick your interest rate? I'll teach you how discount points work. And I'll show you how much that you would need to pay to get a little bit better interest rate. And we'll talk about whether or not that's a wise decision. Ultimately, it's your decision, but if you're not going to keep the loan for very long, it doesn't always make a lot of sense to buy a really sexy interest rate and pay extra money when you could probably get that rate for free in the future with a refinance. Now, here's the point where I'm also going to teach you about other loan options that you may not be aware of. So we've talked on this podcast before about temporary rate buy downs, like the 2-1 buy down. I'll spend a little time making sure you understand that option. We'll talk about buying out the mortgage insurance. If you're not doing 20% down, you can have monthly mortgage insurance, or you can pay for it at closing and save some money. So I'll show you that, because that's one decision you can make. And I'm also going to weigh the pros and cons for you. Is FHA better than conventional for you? If you're eligible for VA, is that the best program for you? Well, if you have to pay their funding fee and it's $20,000, we might want to use a conventional loan for you depending on your specific situation. So by now in the consultation, we're probably about 20, 30 minutes in, and you're seeing exactly what the interest rate, down payment, and monthly payment will be on any given price range. And I love this part because it's kind of a free-ranging discussion. You may want to see what things look like with a $50,000 lower purchase price. You may have heard about something from a friend that you want to explore. Biweekly payments, 20-year loans, 15-year loans, rehab loans for fixer-uppers. It's really just an education session. But every time you ask a question, I can answer it with full confidence because I have all of your details sorted out in front of me. It's no longer if this, then that conversation. Does that make sense? We're going to also look at what your maximum is, how much you qualify for on the top end. And usually, to be honest with you, it's more than you want. It's important that we put that in writing for you and let you know what your limit is as you go out shopping. So if I tell you, hey, you're eligible for $500,000 and you say, oh, no, we're not going over 4, I'm still going to write on your pre-approval letter $500,000 so that you and your agent know, and I have documented what we talked about was your maximum. You can always offer less, and you can even edit the pre-approval letter downward if you don't want to show that much to the seller. But we're going to establish what your maximum is, and now you are fully prepared to snag that perfect house when you find it. And it's so important to do all of this ahead of time. I've got, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but when I get that panicked call on the weekend, somebody found a house and they need to buy it right now, they need to make an offer, I can help you, but it is just so much less ideal than if you get pre-approved first, you have your pre-approval letter in writing, and then you go start looking at houses. So after the meeting, I'm going to send you and your agent a couple of things. I mentioned the pre-approval letter. Our pre-approval letter is the best in the business. I want the agents and the sellers to know how much work we've done before writing this pre-approval letter. And if you look at it, it's designed to give them the maximum confidence in you and me. That's especially important in a competitive market, or if you have a home that's beautiful, that you really want, that's priced well, you're probably going to have more than one offer on that house. You're going to be fighting with other buyers to win that bid. So on my pre-approval letter, I'm doing a custom video where I talk to the sellers just like this about you. With your permission, I'll tell them how awesome your credit is, how awesome your down payment is, that it's already sitting in the bank, or your work history, how solid it is. This is really, really helpful and helps a lot of our buyers win that perfect house that they're afraid they might lose if they just turn in a generic pre-approval letter from some lender who doesn't have a good reputation. That alone, all things else being equal, can make you lose out on that house. So also, I'm going to send you our mortgage calculator app. This app is awesome. It's programmed on the back end for you. So you can see accurate payments as you explore different houses, because you can change the purchase price, you can change the loan amount, and it will calculate things like mortgage insurance and property taxes and insurance estimates for you as close to accurate as you can be for an estimator, right? It's a lot more accurate than going on some website and just plugging it in. I've had a lot of clients who will run a calculation on a website, and it doesn't include the escrow account for taxes and insurance. The payment that you get there doesn't include any mortgage insurance. It's not very reliable, and I've had some disappointed people show up for a full quote and realize that the tool they were using online wasn't really giving them the whole story. The other thing that our app will do is it will tell you if you qualify for that house or not. Because, again, I've programmed in for you on the back end what your income is, what your limits are, and you can even generate a pre-approval letter right out of the app if you're in a hurry and you don't want to wait for me to get you one or edit one. Okay. Now, what if you don't qualify? Or what if it's questionable? First and foremost, you're either going to leave that consultation with me with a solid pre-approval or a solid game plan and a follow-up appointment with me. So sometimes we need to do a little credit work, right? We need to have you pay off some things. We need to wait a little while until your income qualifies in certain ways. So we're going to work with you as long as it takes. There's never this like, hey, you can't qualify, get out of my office type of reaction. So don't be afraid if you're unsure. Let's go to work. Let's work together as long as it takes to get you ready. Sometimes you're on the borderline and there's something that I'm just not sure about. So we can do a pre-underwrite. This is another level of certainty. If I suspect that we're going to need to do some battle with the underwriters about your income especially, or your credit, I want to do it ahead of time, not when you're under contract. Does that make sense? Not when you've already offered earnest money, tied up a home, you're packing boxes. That is not the time I want to be doing battles with the underwriter to try to get your loan approved. So we can submit a loan without a property and we'll get assigned to an underwriter and we'll do the conversations. Here's an example. I have a client who she recently received a raise and she also has variable hours. So her work is usually 30 hours a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. And the underwriters want to take a 2-year average, which is fine. But I want them to use her raise. And I want them to take her average hours, not her average dollars, and then apply the average hours to her new raise because it's quite significant. We want to get her a little higher income. So we submitted that loan to underwriting. We spent probably a week going back and forth, clarifying, answering, doing battle until we got to the point where we have a written dollar amount that lender is going to use, and I can plug that in and write your pre-approval based on that. Now, at this point, I do want to clarify. Sometimes I meet people who have found the perfect house and they need to make an offer, like now, like tonight. Of course, I can certainly accommodate that. We can do a pre-approval quickly, like right away. But what I'm doing here is laying out for you the ideal way to do it, not the only way. But we could certainly go faster. And the one thing that I won't do is put your pre-approval in writing unless I'm 100% sure that I can land that plane safely for everyone involved. As I said at the beginning, there is too much at stake for you, too much for the seller, and the seller's probably buying a house, so their seller and their seller all have a lot riding on this transaction closing smoothly. There's also agents involved and all these other parties who rely on us. And it's honestly, it's a terrible nightmare when the financing falls apart due to a bad pre-approval in the end. So if you would like to experience this for yourself, there's no cost. There's no obligation. If you come and meet with me or if we set up a Zoom meeting, you're going to get free advice, full advice, and a solid pre-approval based on exactly what you qualify for. I hope you'll take me up on the offer. This is what I do every day, all day for my clients, and I would love to put all this in place for you as well. So there you have it, what to expect when you come to my office for a pre-approval consultation. As a reminder, as we wrap up here, we have the Asking for a Friend tool. This is where you can go record your questions. If something comes up in these episodes, feel free to go to our website. It's homebuyersquest.com and click the little microphone and you can just record your question for the podcast. You can also email me. My email is nelson@uimcorp.net. And we have our Facebook group, which we're working on getting up and off the ground. It's the Utah Homebuyers Quest discussion group. It's another place to go, post your questions, get answers from me and other professionals in the group. And again, if you found this episode valuable, please hit the like button. Please subscribe for the next one. It really helps me to reach other people just like you. All right, there you have it. Thank you for listening, and let's do it again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Utah Homebuyers Quest podcast with Nelson Bars, your place for a strong dose of inspiration and knowledge so you can stay on top of your quest for home ownership. If you have a question or comment for the show, we'd love to hear from you. Visit homebuyerquest.com to record a voice memo or submit your question. You can also join our Facebook community to interact with experts and fellow travelers. Search Homebuyers Quest on Facebook to find the group and join the conversation. But with just a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to the next episode. And remember, we believe in home ownership and we believe in you.